Good evening. It's Wednesday, May 7th, 2025. Welcome to episode 110. We are out of the aughts and on to 110. This is Porterhouse and Teal Live, and we're joining you tonight on a Wednesday rather than our usual time slot on Monday evening. And we have been burning the candle at both ends, preparing to get things ready for our trip around here. And we're also still trying to work in, all of our training. And so I'm finding that there is literally just not enough hours in the day to get all of the things done that we need to get done. And that's one of the reasons why we opted not to come on this past Monday. But sometimes you have to prioritize the things that you need to do over the things that maybe you want to do. And so we apologize for our absence last week, but or a couple of days ago. We're still in the same week, but I'm finding that there's just not enough hours in the day. What do you think, Rebecca?
Right now, it is crazy. We also had to squeeze in the fair with our grandchildren showing their hogs.
Mm-hmm.
And so that took up a little bit of time as well. And hello to London.
Yeah, good evening, London. I don't even know if anybody will join us. It's not our usual time to come on, but we thank you.
London did.
I see that. Thanks for joining us.
Mm-hmm.
But awesome. The kids did well at the fair. That was really nice to see. They had good support. They did well showing their animals, but then they also both seemed like they got a right price for their animals. And I think they're probably pretty happy with that.
Yes, I believe they did get a right price for their animals. Plus, they have grandparents who kind of tossed in a little extra from both sides. However, it was our granddaughter's first time showing, so she was a little sad to see her hog go. And I was informed that she had to keep a little bit of its hair in memory. She was not going to let the hog go completely.
Right. Yeah. That's a tough thing, man, for kids. I remember my first steer, and I was 9 years old at the time, but I cried like crazy. I mean, it was a tough, moment for me, and you get used to it moving forward. It's something that you get accustomed to as you grow up and you realize, but that first one is very difficult. And so I think she's probably, she's taken it, hard, but she'll have another one next year. And, it was great to see her have so much success her first year. But
I think when the check comes in, that also is really encouragement to want to do it next year. And hey, well, I'll get another pig.
Yeah.
That'll be good.
Yeah.
Hello, Without Training Wheels.
Yeah. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. We like to support the kids in one way or another. And so, we do have the ability to add on. And so that's what we did to our grandkids. We added on, I don't know, $500 or something to each of their hogs. And there was actually another young lady who came up to me and introduced herself, kind of soliciting me there as I'm sitting there in the
buyer's chairs,
and she came up and introduced, and hi, I'm so-and-so. And, this is my name and this is what I'm, she had a meat pen of rabbits. And, I was thinking, I want to support that young lady. It just so happens that we weren't able to stay to the end of the sale, and hers was like later on in the sale, but Rebecca made the gesture to go and tack on some money to her thing, which I thought was pretty nice as well.
Yeah. I had asked if I could add on prior to them showing their animals, and sure. They just gave me a form to fill out, and money coming in is good.
Yeah, it is. Also, I wanted to jump on tonight because we may not, in fact, we will not be on next week for sure. And there's a good chance we won't even have time the following Monday. However, we might be on, pop in Wednesday or something once we get back from our trip. And of course, many of you probably know we've been preparing for Rebecca's big event. And how are you feeling about that actually at this point? Are you starting to get any nerves associated with it? Because we've been packing this week. We've been trying to get everything going, and it's getting close to the point where you're going to have to actually get out there and do the work. So are you starting to in any way get nervous about that?
I am usually one of those people who is not extremely nervous until that day. And then I'll be very nervous.
You think so?
I'll be very nervous, for one, because it's the first time I've ever done 100 miles. And two, I'm not good staying awake all night. And I plan on staying awake to get in as many hours as I can. So hopefully by moving, that will keep me awake and going.
Right. Well, you just let me know what it is that you need, because again, I'm there to support you in your effort. I think it's really, for me, it's neat because so often you are the one that's supporting me and waiting around for me for hours until I come in for a very brief time. And then you see me off, and then you're waiting around again for hours on
a long time.
Yeah. And so it'll just be nice to be able to be there to support you in doing something. So I'm looking forward to you, doing this and having success at the challenge. But yeah.
I plan on succeeding.
Yeah. So how are you doing? I didn't ask you, how are you doing this evening?
I am doing good. Like I said, we did the fair and just recovering from that. I do have a family member who's ill, so there's a little emotional upset with that.
Right. Yeah, we've been running down and making trips to go see her family member, which is, again, it's just one of those things, you just don't have enough hours in the day. And so we've been very, very busy. But we did want to jump on tonight and debrief, maybe if nothing more than just for you or I to sit down and have a conversation, because we haven't had a lot of time doing that. We've been kind of passing each other while you're doing something and I'm doing something, and we say a few words or whatnot. So this is kind of an opportunity to sit down and chop it up.
Yeah, just little hand signals that, hey, I got the dog.
Yeah, as you're driving by. Yeah. One of the things that I noticed last year, because I took a trip down to, where was it? I think it was Kentucky. No, Tennessee. I went down to Tennessee in the springtime, and it was very interesting for me, because usually I'm around in the springtime and I'm not gone for extended periods of time. Even when I was working full time as a firefighter, my busy time was in the summer, but yet I was never gone for any extended periods of time when things are just really taking off and growing. But I took off and went to Tennessee down to a festival. And when I came back after having been gone for 9 days, I was like kind of blown away to see how much everything had grown. And things can really tend to get out of control this time of year with the rapidly growing vegetation. And so whenever we leave to go somewhere, it's always a big priority of mine to try to make sure that everything is pretty well dialed before we leave, because things are going to continue to grow throughout the spring and moving into summer. So I've been doing a lot of work out there right now, just again, weed abatement and mowing lawns and making sure everything's taken care of. And generally speaking, what I tend to do, I don't know if this is what anybody else does when they are preparing to leave their place, but I want to make sure that I don't have any potential hazards, particularly from like a wildfire perspective. So it's a real big concern of mine, but I'm going to do as best I can to mitigate all that prior to leaving. And so it's been taking up a good bit of my time. But what have you been doing as far as taking up all of your time?
Well, obviously the original household chores and trying to fit in the grandbabies and trying to keep the pool clean, but we also have fruit that has come in. And so I thank you for picking it all. And so it's up to me now to clean it and decide what I'm going to do with it. And before I go on, I would like to say, I believe Without Training Wheels said you got it. I'm assuming he's referring to the race. And thank you.
Yeah. I think.
And hello, hogs.
Yeah. And Brady, what's up, man? Thinking about Lunas, what are the best for hiking? Hope you guys are doing well. Train hard. As far as the best for hiking, I would probably recommend like the Osos, the Oso Flaco or the Osos, because they have a really aggressive outsole, a Vibram or Vibram outsole. That's pretty good, if you're doing on anything that's up and down, technical type stuff. As far as comfort, the Mono is much more comfortable, but it doesn't have nearly as an aggressive outsole. So, hiking, I would probably recommend that particular model. But I can get with you on that, and then we can go from there. You can hit me up directly, and I can give you some more intel on it. I might even be able to get you a discount. Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
So back to the fruit.
Mm-hmm.
My plans are to freeze some of it because Eric has a smoothie once, sometimes twice a day, and it's really nice to have fruit on hand. So this is really providing us our own that I don't have to purchase from the store. And so I plan on doing that in smoothie size bags. So you'll be able to just add that to the cup.
Right. One of the things that would be challenging in doing so, and this is what you have to do, I believe, in order to freeze fruit. And you can confirm this, Rebecca, because you've done it before. But you have to not put them in like wet. Wash them off, but allow the fruit to essentially dry, and then you freeze the fruit. Because if you put it in when it's wet and you freeze it, then you're going to essentially just have a block of fruit rather than being able to break loose the individual strawberries or what have you. Right?
Yes, that is very helpful. They will still somewhat kind of cling together, but like a bag of ice, you can break them apart.
Yeah. Yeah. So today I harvested. I went out in the orchard and right now, because I planted all that strawberry last year. I probably should have planted more out there this year, but I planted more in the front yard than I did out in the orchard. But the stuff that I planted last year, it's flourishing right now. And so I pulled probably, I don't know, maybe close to 50 berries, 50 strawberries this morning, and probably about 25 peaches. I've got a cultivar called Early Treat. And it was put in new just last year, but it's really flourishing in the space that it's in. And primarily that's because of all of the care that I've done in ensuring that those trees are being properly fed and the soil is being taken care of. I mean, that's the key to growing anything. You have to take care of the soil and make sure that the moisture is being retained and that it's being properly encouraged for soil life to grow there. But I mean, every one of those trees that I planted last year is flourishing. And I pulled off, like I said, probably about 25 of those Early Treat right now. And it's a young tree that I've knocked a bunch of fruit off of. And they're small peaches at this point for, basically first year of production. But they're probably, like a large Santa Rosa plum size. Right. And
they're very tasty.
Very tasty. And then I've still got probably another 25 or so out there on that particular cultivar. But
because along with processing this stuff, you have to try it to make sure it's okay. You don't want to poison anybody. Jokingly.
Okay.
Joking.
Yeah. So one of the things to think about, guys, if you, in fact, you're putting in fruit trees or any kind of, fruit trees is a key consideration would be choosing fruit trees or select those cultivars that are going to cover all of the harvest seasons. It's kind of important to do that. And so what I mean by that is to select them where they are going to be ripening at different times. So you basically stagger the harvest season that way. And they usually, when you're selecting your trees, they categorize them into like early, mid, or late season. And so, for example, I have that tree out there where I just harvested. Of course, it's called an Early Treat. And, we're looking at first week of May, I'm already eating peaches, right? But I've also got trees out there that are going to be late season. Like I've got one that's an Oktoberfest. And of course, that's going to come in around October. So I'm going to have a peach harvest essentially from the cultivars that I've selected for that stagger for the harvest. So they don't just all come due at the same time. You can kind of enjoy them throughout the season. So I think it's just an important consideration, something to think about. Another one that I've got out there that's kind of a late season. It's called the Liz's Late, and it's a nectarine. But we have yet to, we may get some on it this year because it was new last year, but we'll see what it does this year. But it's got some fruit out there.
Hello, Double Oz. Today also is a very special day for me. It is my late father and sister's birthday.
Yeah. I had time to reflect and think about those that have, been in your life and now are past, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Without Training Wheel Hogs 14's in the house. How are you doing? Good to see you, man. Says the damn deer keep eating my black currant. Yeah, man. I'm telling you, it's a constant battle. I'm fortunate that the trees that I put out here last year, that was one of my biggest concerns, is because it's very frustrating to put in an orchard and then you're battling deer, right? Mm-hmm. And so I made an effort to make sure that I deer fenced that, because I didn't want to go through the effort of trying to plant all this stuff and then, just being discouraged when you come out there and everything's destroyed. So I do have other areas where they can access and they could browse if they wanted to, which wouldn't be nearly as upsetting or detrimental to me. But that's a constant battle, man, on the homestead, and mm-hmm. They can do a lot of damage depending how many come in and, how much you have to allow them to get after. Different things you can do though, too, man. Like I have used some of Billy's bone sauce and I think that stuff works pretty decent. So that's an option. Billy from, what the hell's his, what's his channel?
I would have to think about that, but, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. I'm drawing a blank right now, but anyhow, he sells this basically it's a bone sauce where you take bones from like a deer or whatever, cow bones or whatever, and you put them in this big ass vat, and then you start a fire and basically you render these things down till they're kind of burnt smelling. And then, he adds some other special things in there that, is his proprietary sauce. And, you sprinkle that, or you paint it on the not the foliage, but the trunk and the branches and stuff. And it smells so horrific that it kind of, I believe, works. So you could try different things like that. But yeah, they're a real pain. Rabbits and whatever else out there snacking on your stuff. Mm-hmm. In fact, today I was up mowing in the upper portion of my pasture, and I spooked out a little bunny rabbit. And I thought, oh, that's cute. But then I could see him kind of scurrying around and looking a little nervous. And then I looked up, and there was like a golden eagle swooped down, big ass golden eagle, and just snatched him up and flew off over to a fence post and started eating him. And then I saw another golden come in and fly right over to that other one and just kind of sit there and look like he was waiting for the snacks. But I thought it was a pretty unique thing to see. You don't often get to see that up close like that, but that was kind of crazy, because I saw the little bunny rabbit. You can almost see fear in his eyes. He's like, disoriented and running around. And what are you doing?
This is not what I want to hear. That poor bunny.
Well, yeah, it's nature at its finest.
I know.
What are you looking at?
I know, but that poor bunny.
Are you playing video games?
I'm not playing. No, I'm not playing video games. But I would like to say hello, Double Oz.
Okay. Good evening, Double Oz. Yes, London, Perma Pasture Farms. I don't know why I was drawing a blank on Billy's, his farm, but
I saw that down there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, another thing that I need to do this week, I had thought that I was going to order one of those kits where that you just kind of snap onto your leaf blower, and then you can stay on the ground and blow the leaves out of your gutter. But I thought, I could probably just fabricate something like that. So I'm going to go ahead and make something, but I need to assemble and gather the parts in order to do that. Because I'm sure I could make it better, if not just as well as what they could sell me for a lot more that came from China. Right? So this would be American made. This would be a fully American made product with Chinese parts.
Are you good friends? You love the Chinese people?
Oh, I got nothing against Chinese people, other than the fact that,
they're from China.
Yeah, and they're stealing all of our intellectual property, and they want to fucking dominate the world and make it a communist utopia. I have nothing against the Chinese people. That's nothing. It's not really the people as much as it is their government, but
their leader.
I digress. Their dear leader. Double Oz, good evening. How are you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. So yeah, I want to make that gutter clean out thing because I don't like getting on the roof, man. I'm getting old and fucking scared of that. If I fall off, you know what's going to happen to my femurs? They're going to explode. I'm an old, brittle old man now. I can't be doing that. I got to stay on the ground. So.
No, you're not. Look at all of the stuff you've been doing to strengthen those bones up. You're like a spring chicken.
I'm not like a spring chicken, but I have been trying to do things to strengthen my bones. Been drinking my chocolate milk and, getting my calcium. Yeah. So anywho, yeah, that's just what we've been doing around here, guys, is just trying to dial things for our homesteader, because when you leave and you got a homestead, somebody's got to look after it from time to time. Don't you think? Wouldn't that be appropriate?
They do.
We can't just leave for 4 days and have a bunch of chickens and pigs and sheep and stuff around here. That's not a responsible homesteading move. So we have to line up a homestead sitter. And fortunately, we've been able to do that with our daughter because she lives so close by, and it's very nice. It's always nice when you can rely on family, because you trust family. You don't exactly know what you're getting when you ask the neighbor, hey, could you watch after my place? I guess if you're really super cool with your neighbor, then you're cool with that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we're not cool with our neighbors. I'm just saying it's nicer to know who's watching your place isn't going to come in here and fucking steal nothing. Rip you off, man. Think about it. But anyhow, we try to, at least I do. I try to, ensure that it's as seamless as can possibly be for the folks that would come here and watch the property. Because you don't want to place undue burden on somebody who's doing you a favor, and this is a favor that is reciprocated. We watch after their place when they leave and vice versa and all, but you want to minimize the amount of time they have to spend doing things. So it's just one of those extra details that I put into things to make sure it's super easy when they come here to.
Right. For example, the sheep tractor gets moved several times a day for the sheep to eat. However, when our daughter's taking care of the house, the sheep tractor is brought close to the fencing along the driveway where she actually can just throw some hay over. And then she doesn't have to worry about doing that aspect.
Yeah.
The same goes for the chickens and collecting their eggs. There's cartons out there, and usually she collects the egg and she gets to keep the egg. So she gets something out of that.
Yeah.
While we're gone.
And here's the other thing about the chickens. See, the chickens, they don't like it when we leave because they have to stay in their coop.
Well, that's helping her out. Downside for them, helping her out.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. The chickens don't like it when we leave because they have to stay in there and they're used to getting out every day. They very much like seeing me in the morning. That's the only time they like to see me. Oh yeah, they
love seeing you.
That's the only time they like to see me is in the morning when I let them out and
take their food away from them.
And take their food away. And then they get out and then they do chicken things. And they have a beautiful time all day in the chicken yard. It's a fantastic setup. And they look forward to that. So when we're gone, they have to stay in their coop. And that's a big disruption to their program. But it certainly makes it a lot easier on our house sitter. And so it's just, little tweaks like that and things that you can do to make sure that it's as seamless as possible. But, having a property, I guess, or being a homesteader, you are constantly reminded of the fact that you have this responsibility, even when you're gone, and so
You still worry about it.
Of course. And it's very, and that's something I think I kind of wrestled with that to some extent when I retired, because I wanted to kind of really step back from it. And we did. But it's not like you can ever fully step back. It's not like you can ever fully detach from your property, because you're always thinking about, hey, what's it going to be like when I get back? Or, can you fully just relax and say, I don't have to worry about that. But certainly when you have animals, there's an additional responsibility. And then of course we're in the height of our, vegetable and fruit production.
Mm-hmm.
Things are starting to come on. And so it's not like you can just up and leave forever and think that when you're going to come back and it's going to be beautiful. But fortunately, I have, all of my garden boxes are fully automated. So they're watered every day by timers with soaker hose. And the more of those types of things that you can do to eliminate that extra step or that need, it just really makes your life a lot easier. And then of course it makes everybody else's life a lot easier. Let's see here. Without training, Will says, timer gates. Can the chickens reach the yard protected? Yeah, I can, I thought of doing that, but I don't know. I think, I don't know. It's a possibility, but it isn't something that we have done. But essentially we could set the little gate up where it opens up at the time that I set. They go out, it stays open until they decide, hey, I'm putting myself up, and then it'll close at night. And so, we just haven't done that. That's certainly something that could possibly be done that I can incorporate, but I just haven't done that.
You'd have to figure out for the one coop, because the gate to that coop, you don't have
to put it in. Oh, I see what you're saying. That yes, that would be difficult.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to just leave that gate open.
And for some reason, the chickens absolutely love going in that coop.
It's better digs, man. It's better coop. But anyhow, yeah. And we had our sheep come back today. So they were on loan to our my son-in-law and our daughter. And so they brought them back today. And it just so happens that, they got a good bit of work done over there. They got a lot of their grass eaten down, but they didn't get it all eaten down.
Mm-hmm.
Because the reason why they're coming back is because the sheep finally figured out, hey, you know what? I can do this thing and get out of this electric fence. And so when you have them trained to stay in the electric fence, and then they figure out, oh, I can just do this and it works, then they keep getting out repeatedly. And so they started getting out a little bit more than what they wanted. And so they're back now, which is fine, because tomorrow I am going to separate the offspring from the mothers, and the mothers are going to go back in the sheep tractor, and the youngsters are going to stay over here, and then they're going to have to holler for a little bit until they get the idea that, hey, we don't get to see mom anymore. And it's going to be weaning day tomorrow for the sheep, but it's a good time because they actually do need to be weaned, and we need to put those things up for sale.
So then it'll be my responsibility to try to capture as cute as pictures as possible and get them up.
On Craigslist or something like that.
Yeah, for sale.
We'll offer them up for sale. So yeah, that's going on here as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what did you sell for eggs this week, Rebecca? Any idea?
Yeah, I sold 6 dozen eggs, and then again, we do supply our kids with eggs, so they're not necessarily a sale, but we do have additional dozens of eggs that go out.
Yeah. I think I'm going to probably purchase about 25 chicks after I finish this race in Wyoming, and then we'll get those online. We'll split them out. I'll buy, a dozen or so for us and a dozen or so for Bree and Gray. And then I'll I'll probably have to put in another order later in the year, but I want to get some new Novagens coming because those ones we got are old.
They're old, but they're still laying.
They are still laying, but it's going to be time to roll them out here this fall. But yeah, let's see what's Double Oz says.
Looks like her sister takes care of her place.
It says, I plan on making a 5-gallon bucket feeder and water. So when I go on vacation later this year, all my sister will have to do is check on the chickens and collect the eggs. Yeah, that's pretty ideal, I think. Because it's a big ask, man, to have people come into your property and then, doing a bunch of work. So the easier that you can make it on people, I think it's just a smart move. But yeah, that's a good idea, Double Oz.
I think we plan on also, when we leave, kind of isolating the roosters.
Yeah, that's true. And that's, again, another good reason why to have multiple enclosures where you can, start to separate things and isolate different birds or whatnot. But I think we still probably have maybe 3 more roosters out there.
I think there's at least 3 roosters.
Oh my goodness, man. What a failure this year was. Because we've hatched 19 chicks this past December. And what did we...
It looks like we possibly got 2 hens.
Yeah, because one or a couple of them are already laying, and you can essentially tell that, hey, that's a hen. She's paired up with all the rest of the hens, and she's doing hen things, and all those other roosters are just...
She was gathering up her little sticks sitting in the corner, tossing them over, making herself a little nest.
Yeah.
And then having a little tiny egg.
Yeah. Well, I had another question. Somebody asked, why am I clipping their wings? Why do you clip their wings? Because they were looking at one of the videos that I put out showing how to clip wings or how I clip wings. And somebody was just asking, why do you do that? And I essentially don't clip wings, but only when they demonstrate a propensity to get out of their enclosure. And usually that happens with younger birds before they kind of figure out what the program is. And so today we had a bird that got into the dog kennel, and I was going to ask Rebecca to, help me catch the thing, and we would clip its wings, but she took it upon herself to catch it and clip its wings. So how'd that go?
So that was my first time clipping wings. However, I am pretty observant and have watched Eric and kind of helped him. So I kind of had an idea as to what to do. And so I just figured I would give it a try. And I was holding it by its feet and had it tucked under so that I could, I was all doing this with one hand. I can't exactly tell you how, because I had to cut with the other hand with the scissors. But anyway, spreading the wings apart and clipping those. And meanwhile, that didn't make the chicken too happy with me, but we got it done.
You cut both the primaries and the secondaries?
I did not cut as far as you. So I don't know which is which, actually. So I can't really.
Okay.
The first set that are out, you can see that there's a line where the second set start.
Yep.
Okay. So I cut that first.
Yep.
And then I wasn't sure if I...
Did you draw blood?
No.
Well, there you go.
So I wasn't sure.
Did it fly well after you cut the wings?
Well, that's what I'm getting to. I put it in a coop and closed the door so it was in there by itself in case I had to catch it again. And it couldn't get from one level to the next without falling backwards. And I figured, I must have done pretty good.
You didn't draw blood. It's not flying. You did just fine.
So I opened the door and let it go.
Yeah. Hey, well, I dug up a quote, quick style this week, because I just kind of put this live stream together about a half hour ago, right? And I think this is an appropriate quote, and it's not really a liberal conservative type of a quote. It's just a quote. And I think this quote actually is applicable to just about anyone, but I think it's even more applicable to you, Rebecca, because of what you're about to undertake. And the quote goes as such. It says, "Doing the difficult things that you've never done awakens the talents you never knew you had."
True.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's very true.
Mm-hmm.
Because oftentimes I think a lot of people put up barriers about what they can't do, but they've never really taken the time to apply themselves to do it. And most people tend to not want to do things that are going to place them in a position of discomfort, right? Most people like to just be comfortable. And so when you do hard things, intentionally, you're not forced to do them. You embrace the challenge of doing hard things. It awakens something within you. It awakens this idea that, hey, I never really knew I could do this. This is something I didn't know I was capable of. I thought that I was, but I didn't know. And so when you actually commit to doing it, and then you prove to yourself that I'm able to do that and I'm strong, I think that's what a lot of people would find if they actually wanted to do those things and they applied themselves.
Yes. So let me go back to running this race. Part of running this race is that it is a timed thing. So even if I was not to make it to the 100 miles, it's not a failure. It's not a DNF. My plans are to make it to I'm determined to do the 100 miles,
Mm-hmm.
but it almost has like a safety fault. It's kind of like nanny goat. You do it for 12 hours or 24 hours. And it's what you can do in that. So you're setting your own goal to accomplish what it is that you're going to do in there. If you don't, it's still did not finish a DNF.
Yeah, I suppose so. But since you've publicly stated that you plan on doing 100 miles, if you don't do that, it's kind of like a fail.
It's a fail on my part, but it's not a fail on the paperwork. So I guess my point is, those are the type of races that maybe if you're going to do for your first time, to do that so that if you don't accomplish your goal, you're still not 100% a failure.
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
That's my goal. That's my point in bringing that up.
There's plenty of people that are actually signed up for this race that won't do 100 miles. They're there just for the party. And they're there to just go out and, hey, I'm going to do, 10 miles today. And yeah, my shit hurts. I'm not going to even run tomorrow. They might do 40 miles the entire time. So,
right. So it's your own personal goal that you're setting for yourself.
Right. But you have a goal that you've expressed to me. And I think you want to publicly express that now. You plan on setting an age group world record for 60 to 65-year-olds.
Oh, well, let's say that I'm an old person.
Yeah. So it's good. It's all good. No, I'm proud of you for getting out there.
No, it's surprising how many people in their 60s and 70s are out there running these.
I know. It blows me away. I always feel like, man, when I see somebody who's older than me that's like running faster and crushing it, I'm like, man, I'm not doing enough.
Oh, you're doing enough.
I'm doing plenty, but it's inspiring. Without Training Wheel says, I tell my neighbor to check on the chicks and they can have the eggs. It's a good call.
Yes, very generous.
Good call. And the challenge is against yourself, not others.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's largely true. I think that's largely true for myself. I will speak to. I challenge myself when I go out there to see if this is something that I can actually do, and I try to run my races within myself. But I have to be honest that when I'm out there, I'm competing with other people. They're the motivation for me to run harder. When I see somebody in front of me and I feel like, hey, I can catch that person, and I'm moving good, I'm going to try to get that spot. If I can come into an aid station and I see a bunch of people around and I don't need to spend a bunch of time, I'm going to take care of what I need to take care of, and boom, I'm going to pick up 5 spots just like that while they're sitting back at the aid station. And so I'm competing out there because it is a race to see how I can do my best. But you're exactly right that, you are in a competition and it's a challenge against yourself, more so in most cases than, being out there to race people. But I would say with me, it's both things, because other people out there motivate me to push harder.
Yes. I don't know if other people out there in this particular, the ultras, I don't know if they motivate me to push harder. However, when you talked about them being in the aid station and spending time, I do the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to come in, I'm going to get what I need, I'm going to leave. I'm not going to sit down in that chair and sit and have a conversation for half an hour with somebody and decide to go.
That's why, here's the thing. That's why in races, people, they always run their best times, right? Because you're competing with others. The others are there, and they're being the carrot on the stick for you. Like, it's just more inspiring when you're there with other people.
But the very, very bottom line for me is I do not want to be dead last.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess this could be kind of a did you know, because I saw today yet again, I saw somebody, wearing one of the surgical masks that were so incredibly popular during the COVID era. A lot of people had those little pleated masks that went across their mouth and nose, with like the air gaps on the side, and they weren't really doing a whole lot to prevent anything, at least from what I thought. However, at that time, the government was telling us that we should be wearing these things, not only for our own protection, but for the protection of others.
Mm-hmm.
And, I never thought that really was believable. And it's really not, quite honestly. I just looked this up and I asked this of AI. I said, will surgical masks prevent you from breathing airborne particles? And, as a firefighter, I know that this is not what those things are for, right? Mm-hmm. They have specific masks that are fitted that actually do a pretty good job of filtering out particulates. So surgical masks are not appropriate for that. But this is what the answer that the AI gave me. It said, surgical masks offer limited protection against airborne particulates, especially very small ones. They're designed to block large droplets and splashes, not to filter tiny aerosols or fine particles like dust, smoke, or viruses. That's odd. That's odd that would be what the AI would say, because we were told for a long time from our government that, we should be wearing these things, right? Mm-hmm. Not only for ourselves, but to protect everyone else in the room. I don't know. What do you think of that, Rebecca?
I guess what gets me is when I see somebody with a mask, and you could say, hey, maybe they've got this or maybe they've got that, but they run into somebody that they know and they pull down the mask and they stand there and they talk to their neighbor or their friend or what have you in the grocery store. And then once they leave, they pull the mask back up. Those are the ones that's like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Right. I've got that picture, or it's actually a video. This is back in like 2021, where Rebecca and I flew out to Iowa, and we were on the plane. And of course, the people that are the flight, what do you call them? Flight attendants now?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. They were, walking up and down, and they'd occasionally tell me, hey, put your mask up. And so I'd go like that. And then I'd pull it down as soon as they walk away. But there was this lady sitting across from Rebecca and I still have that video. It's quite ridiculous. She had like this mask and this face shield and everything. And she was wearing these like blue surgical gloves, right? She's wearing the gloves. She's got the whole like get up on. And then of course they brought her food, and she proceeded to fucking pull her mask down, take her face shield off, but then eat the food with the gloves on, right? All the gloves that she's got on, she's sitting there feeding herself with this. And it was just like the most ridiculous thing. And I just can't get over that time in our life where we had people telling us all of these things that proved to be such a psyop and a lie. And, I dug this little ditty up, but maybe you guys remember our illustrious president telling us these things.
Vaccinated, and you're outdoors, you need, and not in a big crowd, you no longer need to wear a mask. I want to be absolutely clear. If you're in a crowd, like a stadium or at a conference or a concert, you still need to wear a mask.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I actually feel a little sorry for Joe Biden. Part of me doesn't. Part of me doesn't because, you know, I know that he's a lifelong politician and he's been corrupt his entire life. And for a good portion of his life, he knew exactly what he was doing to people.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He was padding his nest and making things in his life amazing, and all the people around him, his family, and all of his associates with his corrupt business dealings. Yeah, very corrupt politician. There's many of them that are just like Joe Biden, with almost like they don't have a soul, where they will do this and then lie to your face and, you know, put you in jail for the same things that they're doing. On one hand, I feel like he's a bastard, but then on the other hand, I kind of look at that, you know, what was done to that man in the last bit of his life. How he was somewhat abused, I think, because he was obviously cognitively impaired. And, you know, that's a real problem in America. It's a real problem in the world, dementia, Alzheimer's. And as of 2025, there are an estimated 7.2 million Americans aged 65 and older living with Alzheimer dementia, according to the Alzheimer Association. And that figure represents about 11% of seniors in that age group. And so, yeah, it's a really interesting and sad disease. You know, additionally, there are about 200,000 Americans aged 30 to 64 that have younger onset dementia. And notably, the prevalence is higher in African Americans. So congratulations, me, that I'm about twice as likely, you know, and Hispanics are about 1.5% times as likely to have dementia compared to whites. And women face a higher lifetime risk versus, you know, just white males. So white males have the least amount, apparently. That's just kind of interesting that so many people suffer from this sort of thing. Mm-hmm. We both have members in our family who have had to contend with this horrible disease, and I do find it, you know, kind of a drag, right?
It is. It's amazing how well it can be covered up for quite some time by their spouse, who cling very close to them and kind of help them along as they're like forgetting, oh, you meant this. Mm-hmm. You typically, that's what you'd hear. Oh, you meant this. Oh no, here, we went this way. Remember we went here, or, you know, and so you don't think twice about that. You're like, oh yeah, okay, you know, I forget things here and there, whatnot. Mm-hmm. But in reality, they are actually suffering from dementia.
Yeah, it's a pretty sad disease. I just recently saw, I think this was yesterday, I believe, I found this clip, and I thought I'd share it. But this was our president most recently, before Donald Trump, and he was being asked about, you know, his decision to leave the race and all of that, and whether or not, you know, he should have done it earlier and everything. And you just watch the struggle on this dude's face, man. This was the leader of the free world making very important decisions, as we are led to believe. I honestly don't believe he was making that many decisions, because everything was scripted for him, including the little notepad that he had given to him when he would go places. And, you know, you're supposed to look at this, Joe, and you're supposed to stand on this little mark. But it's just amazing to think that that was going on and the media completely didn't want to talk about it. They didn't want to say anything about that. And we were all told, no, he's fine, until it was pretty quite obvious that he wasn't fine. But this is an interview. I guess he's getting back out there in the public eye for whatever reason. I have no idea. Maybe he's trying to rehabilitate his image or do something to save his presidential legacy, if you will. But it's just interesting to see people who really have been in the limelight their whole life, and they just can't let it go when it's time to go.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You would suspect Kamala Harris would be of that same type of thing. Like, hey, I had my run, but no, she's going to try something else. She'll resurrect herself, and she'll be brought in by the machine to say, oh no, she's going to be doing this now within the party because she's another one of these corrupt people. But I just think that Joe Biden was actually being used. So I do feel in some ways a little bit conflicted, because on one hand, I think he was a corrupt, he had evil intent. He wasn't a very nice person, very aggressive when you challenge him. But this was yesterday.
Too late? Should you have withdrawn earlier, given someone else a bigger chance?
I don't think it would have mattered. We left at a time when we had a good candidate. She was fully funded, and what happened was, I had become what we had set out to do. No one thought we could do, and become so successful on our agenda. It was hard to say, "No, I'm going to stop now." I meant what I said when I started, that I think I'm prepared to hand this to the next generation. It's a transition government. But things moved so quickly that it made it difficult to walk away, it was a hard decision. But
regrets, though?
No, I think it was the right decision. I think that it was just a difficult decision.
But you shouldn't have taken it earlier.
Well, I don't think so. I mean, I don't know how that would have made much difference.
I don't know, Rebecca. What do you think of that? I mean,
if I were to guess, I would almost guess that it's not Joe that wants to be out in front, but he's being encouraged by possibly his wife, who wants to stay in the limelight.
Yeah. Well, she's not in the limelight if he's the one there speaking to the BBC in an interview. But I just don't know. I don't know how to process that when I see that. I'm just thinking, man, this guy is really, he's just not there. Cognitively, he's so impaired, and yet he's like lost when he's up there in a very simple interview. He can't even like convey himself in a way that makes any sense. He's like thinking like, well, I don't know. Mm-hmm. And that was our president, and we were lied to. That's I guess all.
So somebody's got to be setting up these interviews for him.
True.
Right?
Mm-hmm. True.
I seriously don't think that he's doing that by himself.
Not at all.
And whoever's doing that, I think, is actually kind of being cruel, because he doesn't know what he's doing. And that's when I feel sorry
point
for him.
That's a good point, because, he's not the one placing the phone call and scheduling these things. It's being scheduled for him, just like everything else was. So you have to wonder who's behind that. But it is just kind of, on one hand, it's a little sad because that's a real thing. Ronald Reagan had, dementia. And, as I said, we've got family members with this issue. So anyhow, I did hear, since Donald Trump's out there, did you hear that he's trying to resurrect Alcatraz Island as an option for criminals?
I did hear that. It kind of made me smile, because for quite some time as criminals come in and they were complaining, we don't have room and they're releasing people, I'm like, open up Alcatraz, stick them out on that island. But on the other hand, to physically do that, it would take so much money to restore the buildings and everything.
Do you think Trump doesn't know that? Do you think he?
Oh, I think Trump knows that. I don't think he's going to open Alcatraz.
So what do you think he's doing it for?
He's just trying to get the fur standing up on people's neck.
Yeah,
the left side.
The left side of their neck. Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think he knows that, and it's just another way he can kind of troll. But I was actually I took a field trip out there in high school, and that place was pretty well dilapidated at that point. I mean, it's out in salt air, and it's not being maintained in any reasonable fashion. And the way things are nowadays, you'd have to have a completely up to date, up to code, up to all this other standards for prisoners. And it would be this multi-million-dollar, if not $1 billion facility that would take years to build. So again, it's not going to happen, but I did find it kind of interesting to see that he's out there trolling doing this. However, there are people who have been making the claim that Donald Trump is suffering from cognitive decline because of this suggestion. And it's pretty interesting because, those claims are being made by the same people who completely sought to cover up Joe Biden and his cognitive decline. Right?
So maybe they're suffering too. If they couldn't realize it in Biden, I understand why they're doing it. But I'm just saying, if they can't figure it out with Biden, and now all of a sudden they're thinking it's happening to Trump. Yeah. Maybe they're suffering from it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. But I don't know. One thing that I've appreciated about Trump is, he's definitely, to me, a leader is somebody who's not afraid of confrontation. A manager, somebody who runs things, corporation, businesses, and does so successfully. They have to be able to fire people. They have to be able to tell people uncomfortable things that most people have an issue doing, right? Mm-hmm. Most people don't want to have a face-to-face confrontation with people. And they want to hide behind, maybe the anonymity of the internet. I think that there's different types of confrontation, right? Face-to-face. And then there's those that want to just snipe, just be a bomb chucker, say something on the internet. There's a lot of people who do that, but they don't have the ability to actually say it to your face. And I do find that unique about Trump, that he's passionate about what he's fighting for. And I think that that's what a lot of people like about the guy, in a sense. I think that they feel as though he's going to have their interest and fight for their interests, which is, this country first. And so just recently, I think it was yesterday, that the new Liberal leader of Canada, the Canadian Prime Minister, his name's Mark Carney, who kind of was just recently elected in an upset where the Conservative thought things were going to go his way, but yet it didn't turn out that way. So now we have another continuation of Justin Trudeau and his party. Obviously, this guy's a different dude. He's not Trudeau. And so he made the effort yesterday to come down and to meet with Donald Trump, which I think would be a smart move on any leader of a nation that borders one of the most powerful nations, if not the most powerful nation in the entire world. They have a lot of history and relationship that needs to be massaged between the two nations. And of course, with the things that Donald Trump has said publicly about Canada being the 51st state, that hasn't helped relations so much. Mm-hmm. So Anyhow, did you see the, you can stop that. Did you see any of the meeting that they had yesterday?
Very little.
Okay. Yeah, it was, I don't think it went the way that Mark Carney had anticipated or hoped for. And I found it a little bit comical, but I found it actually a little surprising how how brazen Trump was in the way the things that he said to this guy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not really much different than what he said to little Justin. He just said it on a different day. So I'm going to play this clip and you tell me what you think. I don't know if you've seen all of this, but I found it to be interesting.
And I'd like to say hello to Dwight Heyer.
Dwight Hires, how you doing? Power has perfectly corrupted in this case. Yeah. I don't know. I think that happens on both sides of the aisle.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
We are the largest client of the United States in the totality of all the goods. So we are the largest client of the United States. We have a tremendous auto sector between the two of us, and the changes that made have been helpful. 50% of a car that comes from Canada is American. That's not like anywhere else in the world. And to your question about is there one thing? No, this is a bigger discussion.
This is very friendly. We're not. This is not going to be like we had another little blow up with somebody else. That was a much different. This is a very friendly conversation. But we want to make our own cars. We don't really want cars from Canada, and we put tariffs on cars from Canada. And at a certain point, it won't make economic sense for Canada to build those cars. And we don't want steel from Canada because we're making our own steel, and we're having massive steel plants being built right now as we speak. We really don't want Canadian steel, and we don't want Canadian aluminum and various other things because we want to be able to do it ourselves.
Yeah, that actually went on for a little bit longer in another clip that I saw, but that's essentially the gist of it. And I find that to be, yeah, man. I mean, he's not backing down from that. That prior to that, he was asked, are you going to take the tariffs off? And he said, no. I mean, like, check it out. Watch. Let's see here. Hold on a second. It's a little low on the audio, but check this out.
Is there anything he could say to you in the course of your meetings with him today that would get you to lift tariffs on Canada?
No.
Why not?
Just the way it is.
We are the largest.
There you go. So I don't know, man. I like that. I know a lot of people don't like that.
Well, he wants everybody to pay their fair share.
Yeah. And well, he has America's interest in mind more so than spreading a bunch of money around the world for different pet projects and things. He's trying to bring that back. I think, the biggest difficulty that I have with his administration thus far is that they just haven't closed the deal on any of this shit yet. Right. Mm-hmm. They haven't closed the deal on any of the billions of dollars of corruption that have taken place in government. The Department of Government Efficiency has done a lot of really good work uncovering this stuff. And it seems like it should be progressing forward. And I think if in fact it does, it will restore the faith that I have that maybe some of the swamp might get drained, but there's a lot of fucking people that need to go to jail that are just not going to jail yet, or even they're distracting everybody with Diddy, right? Mm-hmm. P. Diddy. And hey, we found some more fentanyl, and you got Pam Bondi saying, hey, we're going after the cartels. Well, that's all stuff you should be just doing anyway, man. You don't even need to be talking about that shit. Tell us something good. Tell us about the criminals that have been within our government. That's what people voted for, man. They voted for draining the swamp. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. That's the biggest disappointment thus far in the presidency. But I think he's on the right track, and I like some of the people he has working with him.
Yeah, there's a couple that I think, well, there's at least one that I know of that I think he could let go and he would do just fine.
Who are you referring to?
Probably Pam Bondi.
Oh, yeah, he could do much better than that. But I honestly don't even know if they want to do much better than that, right? Because now you have the swamp. You have people in the swamp that are, said they were going to do all this shit that are now in control, finger quotes.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll just have to, I guess, be patient and wait. And that's where we're at with it. But
that's pretty much where we're stuck.
Yeah. But anyhow, Dwight Hires says, I am fine. Thank you. First time to make it to an online chat of yours. I love what you do with your chickens. Hey, man, thank you. I will say this, that we are, I won't have a video coming out this particular, this week, this Saturday, but it'll be scheduled for the following Saturday. And that'll be one of the days where she's probably maybe hopes to be done by her run, but we'll just have to see how that goes. And we'll keep you informed, because I do intend on shooting some content while we're out there and putting together a video, because I want to capture and chronicle her journey.
I'll be done if it kills me.
That's what I like to hear, except the killing part. Just get her done. But anyhow, I think that's about all we have for tonight. It's kind of a light night.
Mm-hmm.
We've still got some things we need to get done around here, but I definitely wanted to stop in for the week and chop it up with not only my number one over here, but anybody else who shows up in the live. And we do appreciate you guys coming with us and listening to the banter from week to week.
Actually, I was really surprised. In the middle of running around trying to get everything done, he goes, "Hey, you want to do a live stream?"
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. I just thought it would be maybe a good idea to get in and do something,
Mm-hmm.
because there are some things to talk about. But again, thanks to all of you who've shown up tonight, and to those who have yet to listen. But we hope you have a fantastic week moving forward. We intend on doing that, and we will keep you informed of everything that's going on here and her progress. And
so I'm expecting all of you to say a prayer for me Wednesday afternoon as I start at noon.
That's right. I'm
gonna fill you all. Power me.
Right. Right. Yeah. So we'll be able to be led onto the ranch. This festival, the running festival, happens, every year, same place, same essentially weekend. But we'll be led onto the ranch on Wednesday at 8:00.
8 a.m.
8 a.m. And then her race will start 4 hours later. And she will have until Sunday at 12 noon to be done with it. But as I told you earlier, she hopes to set the overall world record for age 60 to 64 women in running 100 milers. So we'll keep you apprised of that and let you know how it goes.
Not a world record, but I hope to be done come Thursday night.
Thursday night?
Right?
You're starting Wednesday. You're going to be done Thursday night. Okay. Well,
no, Friday. Sorry. Friday by noon.
Okay.
That would give me two full days.
Okay. So you're calling it, man. That's good. I like that. I like the fact that you are committing to getting this thing done, and I will be there to support you in whatever you need.
And then I'm going to fall down on the finish line. I'm going to sleep there. They just have to, anybody coming over is going to have to trample me.
No, you don't have to do that. The coach is going to be like right next to the finish line. You just jump right in your bed. It'll be perfect. You can take a nice hot shower. Maybe I'll even have a beer for you if you like. Maybe we could get some beers, since we haven't had a beer. I haven't had a beer in like almost a year. It's been a long ass time.
It's got to be longer for me.
Yeah. Well, maybe you want a beer, maybe.
Or maybe maybe we had one at the same time. I don't know. Did we do the beer milkshakes together?
I can't remember when.
Been a long time.
Yeah, it's been like almost June. So I don't know, whatever. And if you have leg cramps, here's the hot tip, because Double Oz is weighing in. It says eat mustard for leg cramps. That actually might do okay. I'd have to see what like the sodium content is in there, but that's primarily why people are cramping, is because of the sodium deficiency. Electrolyte imbalance is a real thing you need to stay up on when running these things. And sodium is the primary factor or reason you start to get those muscle cramps. Mm-hmm. There's a lesser amount of potassium and magnesium and stuff that you lose as well, but it's primarily sodium. So there might be something to that. Maybe a little mustard with some pickle juice. Oh,
slapped on top of a hot dog.
Awesome. Well, hey guys, I think we're going to bounce, and we'll keep you apprised when we come back. But thanks again for joining us. Go out tomorrow and be better than you were today. And remember, homesteading is not harmful content. Did you have anything else you'd like to say, Rebecca, before we end the live stream tonight?
I think I said it. Say a prayer for me by noon Wednesday.
All right, guys. Thanks again.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.